This is the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Dr. Lisa Mickelson joins us again here on the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. The last time we talked to you, you were here with your mom, right? And you wrote a book together. It was entitled My Mindful Moment at the Beach. And now you have written a children's book, and it's called The Noises in My House. How are you making out with all this, Dr. Lisa?
I never knew being a published author would also mean I get to learn how to do all sorts of other jobs, like web optimization and social media marketing.
Yeah. Have you done any author signings or, marketing? How's it going?
I've got one coming up that's at the Tattered Cover in Denver.
Okay.
And so that's going to be pretty cool. It's, Tattered Cover is a kind of historic bookstore out in Denver, and it was bought by Barnes and Noble when they were about to claim bankruptcy. So I'm really happy they saved it. And that's got a bunch of different authors that are part of a group called Writing Heights out here. And they've had over 500 people mark it on their calendars to attend. So I'm really excited. We have got a booth there. Yeah.
It's so nice when local bookstores support local authors.
Yeah. And I've also really enjoyed visiting schools. I had a couple schools reach out where their students did reading rewards. So they had earned a meet an author day from doing their reading. And so I came in and I talked to them about how to become an author, and I got to present my book a little bit. And really I spent most of the time with them actually building a book and writing a book with them based on their school's core values. And then we talked about how they were going to illustrate it. So it was super fun.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been a fun experience. I love the kids. They're part of my favorite part.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that you were able to get into a school. That's something else not everybody can do. It's not that easy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely true.
And now you've written a book.
Yes. And that book is The Noises in My House.
When did you start writing that?
So I wrote a poem when I was 9 years old called The Noises in My House. And at the time when I was writing it, I imagined it could be a book. And so when I got to be an adult, I decided I wanted to go ahead and turn it into a book. I thought it was funny because as an adult, my writing style is very different than when I was 9. It's harder to be as imaginative in some ways, which I found amusing. And so I had to add stanzas to it to make it, big enough to be a book. So that was fun, trying to merge my writing styles. But that was when I started, and then kind of built it out and found a local illustrator, Lindsay Bell, who illustrated the book. And we kind of went through that process together. And yeah, now it's out there and available.
What's it about?
So it's about a kid, and he's talking about the noises in his house. And he's talking about it like it's real, but from what he's describing, there's absolutely no way that this is real, that this is happening. And he's boasting about it. And he's like, the birthday party in my bathroom or the amusement park in my backyard. So it's meant to get kids curious about sounds that are unfamiliar in their house or in environments in general. So I think so often when we hear something and we're not familiar with the sound, our immediate reaction is, oh my gosh, what was that? And I really wanted to add more of a lens of curiosity rather than fear to things that might be unfamiliar when it comes to sounds around us. There's a young boy, and there is a French bulldog and a white chicken.
Do they have names?
Nope. Because he's talking about it from his perspective. So he's asking, have you heard the noises in my house? And he's like, I bet you won't believe. And then he starts taking them through each room and kind of what sounds like in each of those spaces throughout the house, and almost like a house tour. And then at the very end, he's asking, well, what do the noises in your house sound like? And so it's also meant to get kids thinking about, well, what are the noises in my house and what am I familiar with? And so also coming from that mindfulness lens of paying attention on purpose in a particular way in the present moment, and wanting them to kind of be more aware of what's going on around them.
Give me an example of some of the noises in the house.
There's a shark in the garage that barks like a seal, waiting for a treat. There's toots and whistles from horns at a birthday party in the bathroom. There is the click clack of claws and rustling in the pantry as the bandits are in there to grab a quick snack and scurry. And it's actually raccoons. In the attic, you've got a bunch of bugs playing instruments. They're having a ball. In the backyard, there's an amusement park, and there's squeals and kids screaming. And so it varies a lot. There's a greenhouse with snaps and chomps from fly traps. It depends on where you are.
So these sounds are they're his imagination.
They're completely fantastical. And that's why the word is capitalized with my, because he's like, I bet you can't believe what's in my house, right? Like he's trying to outdo them with how amazing the sounds are.
Do you invite readers to share the sounds in their house?
Yes, at the very end. It's what kind of sounds are in your house.
Is there a website or is there some place where they can literally share with you?
I would love that. I do not have a space right now where people can, and I will create one. I love that idea.
Yeah, and then you could have a real dialogue.
Absolutely. I would absolutely love that. And I would love to hear how fantastical those sounds get, both the real and the imagined.
Yeah. Was this book done before the book you did with your mom?
Yes. Yeah, it was. So that's the one that I've presented the most on in the schools, partly because I wrote it when I was so young. And so it's nice for kids to see that, oh, this is something I could start now, right? I don't have to wait till I'm an adult to start doing these things.
That's great.
This one was published first, but like it just took a little while to get the audiobook done. So we published them really close together. Mine published first, and then because the audiobook on mine took longer, because the sounds in the audiobook are awesome. The narrator that did the audiobook for this particular book did all the sounds, and they are so cool.
Did your publisher find the person?
Yeah, it's through the audiobook network. And so they found a narrator, like they had a narrator auditions, and then I got to pick which voice sounded the best. I mean, he even used instruments, and like it was really cool. So I love how it came out.
So now what? Where do we go from here?
Well, we have another book coming out, my mom and I call My Mindful Moment with My Pet. And that one's in the illustration process. It's actually just getting done with illustrations. And I have a book in the wings right now called The Kid Who Cried Potty. And I'm really excited about that one. So I'm going to get that one going here probably in the spring. I'll start that one through the publication process.
It's a long process, isn't it?
It can be. If I'm quick and responsive, it can go faster. It depends on how much I have going on all at the same time.
Okay, so they're in constant contact with you, asking you questions so that they can move the publishing process forward.
Yeah, as things become available, like the illustration process takes the longest. The turnaround time for each revision of the illustrations is probably like 3 to 5 weeks. So that part takes longer. And if I want more revisions, then it just extends the process.
Okay.
But once that gets done, and then the page design can take a little bit for similar reasons. It's a lot more like formatting and visual. But once all that's done, things move pretty quick.
And clearly you enjoy doing it. You enjoy the process of writing.
Oh, yeah.
And putting the
I have
book
more
together.
ideas than I know what to do with right now. It's fun. I wish I had more money so I could publish faster.
You know what? That's what I, say to authors is just get your money back. If you can just get enough traction to do that. Because, really, it's a labor of love. I don't think people realize it's not just, I think I'll write a book today. I'm just going to, what should I write about? For most people, it's something that they really feel passionate about. I mean, what would you say to first-time authors?
Oh, yeah. I would say it's definitely a labor of love. It's something that for myself with this first book, it was my first book. And I I decided in the beginning not to be in a hurry because I didn't want to add that stress to myself. And I would encourage that with first time authors to like just be okay with going through the process of publication and cutting your teeth on it the first time and figuring out where it was hard, where it wasn't hard, where you would do it different next time. And it's okay because then the next time you go through it, it's faster. So like just be patient with yourself.
Yeah, hardest thing to do,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're
Right.
are you a psychiatrist or a psychologist? I forget.
I'm a psychology candidate, so I just have to pass my exam. Boo. But yes,
Yeah, but
I'm a doctor.
yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
Yeah.
work. And another popular, thing I hear is I'm just so busy. I haven't had time to fill in the blank. And it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for the publisher too. And you've illustrated very nicely the importance of starting from where you are, where you
Yep.
live, not a book fair over in Germany or out in Los Angeles so much as where you are. Do people know what you do? Do people know about your books? Does your neighbor
hmm
know?
Like I'm a school psychologist and I have my doctorate in school psychology. And I'm in the process of becoming a licensed psychologist in the state of Colorado. So, like doing books as well, I mean, it's a lot. Most people have another job they're doing. And so it's okay to be patient with yourself and just keep taking those steps, right? It's about persistence
Yes.
and being consistent and just keep showing up.
One foot in front of the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
And it will happen.
It will.
And also, like, you don't have to know how you're going to get there. Just know where you want to go and start walking towards it, and you'll figure it out on the way.
I
Like,
believe you.
I feel like that's most of life, right?
It really is. And the biggest problem is I'm never going to get there, so why even try?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of that.
That's when well, then you don't get there.
No, you definitely
You
don't get there.
just stare at it from afar.
All right. So you're Dr. Lisa, author of The Noises in My House. I'm sure I'll be talking to you again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alice.
Albert Estrada had quite an interesting life as a Marine and then as an educator, but not without some bumps along the way. First of all, thank you so much, Albert, for your service.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
Well, this book is all about your service as a Marine.
Yes, yes. It's my 34 years. Plus, I added in little historical stuff from my father, and my family, and then I take it all the way through to my retirement from public education. So, a traditional classroom teacher, a leadership teacher, a school administrator, and finally as a principal of a school. So,
There's so much in this book. You were in Vietnam.
hmm
You did counter narcotics missions in Mexico and Peru.
yeah, it's pretty much a biography. It's a story of my life as a young man and then transitioning to the military. And I wanted to be a military man at an early age. My first dream was to be in the French Foreign Legion, but then I transitioned to the military and served in Vietnam. But I have service in other combat areas, Panama, like I said, Mexico and Peru. We had the U.S. paid millions of dollars for counter narcotics missions, and then I served in Iraq. But I think the big chapter in my book is my service in Haiti. I was the operations officer for the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Haiti. But on the back, always on the backside, I was an educator. I transition from the military to education was pretty seamless. The classroom was very important to me, and children mastering skills to survive. Education was very important to me, and so I had an administrative credential. I have a single subject credential in elementary school and a multiple subjects credentials and a single subject credential. But anyway, the reason I wrote it was I thought the story was interesting, and I actually thought It could actually be adapted into a movie. So it's like there was a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows. Really points in my life where I really was happy, and some points where I was depressed and could have easily gone in another direction, but I was able to pick myself up and choose to be successful and be happy. So that's the reason I wrote the book. I thought it was an interesting story.
Can you give me an example of one of those times where you had to pick yourself up?
Yes. 1991, we were involved in the Iraq Desert Storm, is what they called it, and then our Department of Defense decided to downsize the military. The Marine Corps, in particular, went from 197,000 to 170,000. So it was like 20% of the Marine Corps was forced out, and I was one of me. I was me. I was right in the middle of my career as a captain. And next thing I'm out. I'm in the civilian world in 1992. And I didn't know what to do. I had to go to the unemployment line. I had to file for benefits. I had to retool, refocus, redirect. And I chose public education because there was a program available called Troops to Teachers, which allowed Department of Defense employees that had a math or science background to be a part of public school, public education. And then the other side, the publication people, administration, they wanted military skilled people. So it was a win-win situation. So the Troops to Teachers helped me transition to become a school administrator, a teacher, and then a school administrator. So I was really down. And when you're on the unemployment line, you are depressed. And like, God, I gave them my 16 years of my life. But next thing I know, I'm out here just like anybody else trying to survive. So it's difficult. And going from the military to civilian is not an easy task. It's challenging. So that was a down point in my life.
What do you mean by the title A Sanctuary Marine?
Okay, the title Sanctuary Marine refers to the term the Department of Defense gives for once you reach 18 years of service, of active duty, you are considered in the sanctuary. In other words, you're allowed to retire at the 20-year mark. So like I explained, in 1991, I was at 16 years, 7 months.
Oh.
So I was so close to reaching that sanctuary, and next thing you know, I'm out. And it's not just me. There's like thousands, hundreds of other military men and women that don't get to reach that 18-year mark. So I had to transition into reserve and kick and scratch and try to get to that 18-year mark doing active duty. And I had to hire an attorney, and I was on active duty and I had a struggle. So there's a chapter in it that explains the struggle that I had. I had to go to federal court and say, hey, wait a second, I've got 18 years of active duty. You need to keep me on active duty. So it's all in the book. It was a legal battle, and I won. But then what happened was the Twin Towers took place. 9/11 took place. So I was part of that. The Marine Corps said, wait a second, we're short on people. Let's bring some of these people back. So I was one of the ones that brought back. So the sanctuary refers to trying to reach 18 years of federal service.
I noticed too, all funds generated by sales of your book are going to go to Stop Soldier Suicide, Tunnel to Towers, and Wounded Warrior Foundation.
Yeah, it's a very near and dear to me. We have 29, 30 servicemen and servicewomen that take their lives every day. And then the other thing with the Tunnels to Towers, I know because you're in New York, another thing that bothers me is homeless veterans. And if we can do anything to homeless veterans, I can't even get to Wounded Warriors without going to the first two. But yeah, I'm trying to hope the sales will pick up, and we'll get those checks to those organizations. I really like the idea of the CEO, the president of Tunnels to Towers, wants to eliminate homelessness for veterans, and that's just a big part we should all participate in.
I agree. What are you doing to promote your book, from where you are?
Very good. Very good question. I went with Fulton Books because they advertised. They sold me on their advertising, their distribution, where it would go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I would get a press release. I would get an interview like this. I would be part of a writers guild or a writers forum that I could participate in. And then I'm going to try to go to every base and military base and try to sell the book. I have a big reunion in Las Vegas of my class in 1980, my basic class in Quantico, and we're going to meet in Las Vegas, and
Nice.
I'm going to promote my book there. There's also a club called 11, a club in Las Vegas that's strictly for Marines and sailors, so I will promote the book there. So I'm doing everything I can, but and I live in Florida half the year, and I live in California half the year. So I'm trying to get it out, word of mouth, friends too. So I'm doing everything I can.
Great, Albert. Great. Are you going to keep writing, do you think?
I have a children's book coming up. I have a service dog. My dog's name is Zoe, and she is an Australian cattle dog, and she had some struggles, kind of like what I did. When I didn't mention the dog in the book, and that's probably one of my biggest regrets. I had a period of depression when I retired from public schools in 2015. I missed the classroom, I missed the kids, I missed the interaction. I miss what I did was, and a lot of people don't know it. It's not so much when you were a school administrator, principal in the old days, it was test scores, school achievement, mastery of the subject matter. Nowadays, the administrators, we're responsible for making sure the students get fed twice a day, a breakfast meal and lunch meal. We're responsible for making sure the kid is dressed and coming to school, with the right tools, the basics, pencils, papers, a laptop, whatever. And then the other thing is I had students that had never seen a dentist. So I had to go out to the local school of dentistry, the Loma Linda School of Dentistry, to arrange for dental students to provide services to students. I was like, this is like being a principal, and then opening on Saturdays, half Saturday to make up class attendance funding, because in California the funding for the schools is tied into attendance. So we had to open up Saturday school. So now we're open 6-7 days a week. It's not just providing education; it's providing social services as well. So anyway, my book on Zoe was I went through a little period of depression after retiring, and I went, let's go get a service dog. So I got a service dog, and I got her into the academy, and they rejected her at first because she was too aggressive. But I worked with her, and we made it. We made it to service school to get her service dog certificate. And then she lost an eye due to glaucoma, but she's overcome that. She has one eye, and so the point of the story is that even though, like in my case, I retired and we went through a period. I can't use the word depression on a child's book. I have to use the word sadness, loneliness. And then Zoe brings a spark of life and motivates me, gets me inspired because of what she went through. So it's coming along good. So the name of the book, I am hoping, is if my publisher Fulton Books doesn't, Zoe, the one-eyed, stumpy-tailed service dog.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So, and I want to do another follow-up book, but we'll see.
All right. Albert Estrada, a sanctuary Marine. Thanks so much for talking to me today.
And thank you for calling me and taking the time from your busy schedule to squeeze me in.
trying to find love during COVID. Short of a Zoom hookup, it was almost impossible to meet someone in person in New York City, let alone anywhere else. Add that to being newly divorced, and you start to get the gist of Douglas Jennings' story entitled Finding Love at 40, a middle-aged quest for happiness during a global pandemic. So let's start with your writing journey. When did it begin?
So I'm a pharmacist. I write scientific papers, and I've been doing that since I was early in my career. But no, the book we're talking about is the first and maybe the only.
Maybe the only? Why?
I don't know. I didn't really plan to write a book. It just happened. It was all during the pandemic, and also just the fact I never expected my life would end up where it was, being in New York, like post-divorce and whatnot. And it just, I had a bunch of people telling me, like, you got some good, it started out as short stories. They're like, you've got all these stories from dating in New York and, the pandemic and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a bad idea. So I started writing short stories, and then I eventually took a creative writing class through Gotham Writers in New York, and it was like a 14-week workshop. So it was a long course, and they were like, I think you can put these stories together into like an actual book. And I was like, oh, okay. So the whole thing kind of happened very unplanned, and that's how we ended up here.
So you found time to write because it was the pandemic.
Yeah, because I was in the class. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the book was written from like January through June of like either 22, I think, or 23. I can't remember.
And how long were you married?
We were together a total of like 5-6 years.
And then what were you expecting when you were, set free? Here you are back in the dating scene, ready to roll, and here comes the pandemic. Were you like meeting people in parks and rolling down your window and,
Yep. Well, I had to relearn how to date when I moved to New York, and at least thank God that part was pre-pandemic. And I didn't even know what online dating was. And so I had enough time to sort that part out at least before things closed. But yeah, there's a story in the book about a walking date. When things first started opening back up, all the bars would do to-go drinks.
Yes.
And they made them incredibly strong. And so there's a date in the book where we were walking up and down 9th Avenue just because that's really all you could do. And by the 45 minutes into the date, we were both hammered. And I'm like, this is so weird. There was a park date that was in there because I had a birthday in the first summer rather, of the pandemic. And we ended up going to Central Park, and it was abandoned. Like, we were sitting on the Sheep's Meadow in Central Park, and we were the only two people there. It was like I Am Legend level in terms of like etherealness, feeling like you're the last two people on Earth. And it was like just lightly raining. And so it was like the whole scape was gray, misty, and then green grass, and then these two people sitting there.
I know, so weird, man. It was the weirdest time.
Heavily strange. There was a big story in the book that ties off that whole date, because that was during a curfew. It was like 8 because it was also my birthday was in June 5th, and so you had the George Floyd riots like superimposed on top of the pandemic. So we were supposed to be home by 8 p.m. and I had a whole scheme cooked up for how to avoid the police checkpoints on the way home from the date.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Did any of the dates work out?
Well, so I don't want to spoil too much, but the last chapter does fall. The series of dates that are described in the last chapter are placed that way in the book for a reason. So some of them did actually, because there's a bit of a roller coaster going on, and again, I don't want to give away too much of the story, but I did end up marrying one of the people in the early chapters of the book. So I did crash in and out of a second marriage while the story was unfolding.
Well, in your synopsis, you say body parts started falling, broken bones, and various ailments started becoming regular dating companions. So were you dealing with health issues throughout all of this?
A lot of different things. Yes. In every chapter, there's some sort of a quirky twist or a very humorous punchline that's involved with, mostly temporary conditions, but still things that aren't usually accompanying somebody in their 20s and 30s. And I think that was where that was also where I found the book really probably has a niche, because all of romance and questing novels are like 20 somethings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like the middle-aged post-divorce dater is really ever captured in either rom-coms or in romance books. I feel like it's either the very young 20 somethings, or then there are some that focus on like the silver daters, late 50s, 60s type of things, even, so I don't, that was another reason I felt the book stood out. I met someone right in November of 2020, right before like the first real winter of COVID. And, I ended up dating her for a year and a half just because I was like, I can't do this again. I can't do a whole nother winter alone.
Yeah.
So that relationship, I think, was artificially extended by the pandemic.
So now what? What's next?
I don't need it for money for sure. And, it was a pet project. I'd like it for people to read it, especially for people who are in the same boat that I was in. So I have a story that can pretty illustrate that point. So the book's been out for 2 years. It just hasn't been finished. And so the marketing hasn't officially started, but I gave it to several people, and one of my friends ordered it to her apartment, and book never came, and she eventually called, and Amazon was like, oh no, we delivered it. But what happened is her neighbor had gotten it by accident somehow. And this person didn't know me, had no idea who I was. And that person was actually going through a really tough breakup, and like middle-aged, thought he was the one. And she thought one of her friends sent her the book. So she just starts reading it. And eventually we discover the error, and, she finishes the book. But the review she wrote on Amazon was just very touching, how the book really resonated with her. It moved her to tears at times, and she really felt connected from it and less alone. And that, that's sort of what I would like to see happen with this book. I do think there's a huge market of people out there like me who feel like perhaps, either something's wrong with them or they're not doing it right. And, there's a big twist in the book where you realize it is a book on funny, a collection of funny dating stories, but the real undercurrent of the book is on mental health and on how to repair yourself post-divorce so that you're better prepared to move forward in a productive relationship.
That's great. You've got a lot of levels.
Yes, that's the you got to always bury at least one secret into the book, and that's sort of the one that comes about somewhere around chapter 6 or 7 out of 10. So that would be, I think, the biggest reason I want to see this book out there, is to have a thing for people who are in my position. Because if I had seen a book like this when I was coming out of my second divorce, I probably would have read it.
Well, the lady who got the book by accident liked it, so.
The people who have read the book have enjoyed it. And so I think it's just a matter of getting it into the hands of people.
All right. Douglas Jennings, Finding Love at 40, a middle-aged quest for happiness during a global pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well.
Dana E. Rounds writes song lyrics sometimes about his life as an adopted child and some of the trust issues he had until he came to a very important realization. And that is, people have different ways of showing how much they love someone. Hence the title of your book, Dana, So Loved.
My wife told me I should write a book, and that's how So Love came about. Write a children's book, because I always was trying to encourage kids who were adopted and had gone through things like I have gone through. It's a little story. It's a story about a 3-year-old kid who's afraid of everything, which I was. And he looks at his parents, his siblings, because I have one sister who's in Arkansas, and when he realizes at the end all the people that love him, his grandparents, his parents. He let go of the fear and he found the love that he needed.
What was he so afraid of, and why was he afraid?
Well, I was adopted when I was 10 days old, and I cried a lot. One of my cousins that used to babysit me, she always tried to calm me down, and my sister used to run around, shut him up, or plug him up. And I mean, I just felt so unloved. It took me 63 years to realize this. And I want to give other people a chance to find it earlier. Like you go to the AA programs and any of those addiction programs, they have you write out all the people you've hurt. Well, let's do that beforehand and not hurt those people. The only one named in the book is Esther. She became my stepmother, but she was a friend of the family all our life. She came to our house. I would never go to her. I always hid behind my parents' legs. One time I came out and I said, "Hi, Esther," and it made her cry because I'd come to her. They take them camping, and that happened to me. And we went from Syracuse, New York, all the way to Coles Creek, which was a couple hours ride. And they sat at the trailer. Mom told Esther he'll come out of the trailer when he's ready. Well, an hour before we came home, I came out of the trailer. They haven't been able to keep me in it since then. He experiences the love that he realizes that people do love him, and he just didn't see it. The end of the book shows different medallions and the different way people love him. Like when he skinned his knee, his mother bandaged it. His father, he felt so comfortable with him he could fall asleep in his arm. Things like that. That all the way these people just, the love really is trust. And that's something that this world needs right now, is a lot of trust.
So he realizes that all of the people he thought didn't love him, even his sister who said that, wanted somebody to shut him up when he was a baby, loves him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's very sweet.
My wife encouraged me to write the book. And my pastor preached at something similar to it one day about his stepbrother who was adopted. Him and I had a 20-minute conversation. Well, the book came out. I wrote the book down and clutched the notebook for 3 days because I was dealing with it. Because I think back now over the last couple of years dealing with this, Joel Smallbone, if you've ever heard of For King and Country, when he did the movie Unsung Hero about his mother, about his family, well, he said it was a 4-year therapy session. Well, mine was a 3-year one.
That's how long it took you to write the book?
How long it took to go through all the process to getting it out.
Yeah.
My church has known all about it. They've been with me every step of the way. In fact, our churches share pastors, and there's 3 churches. I'm going to be announcing it at the Liverpool Methodist Church. I've already announced and talked about it at Faith Talk at Baldwinsville Methodist and Pennellville, which is another one we're tied in with. I've taken it to one library so far. I want to the Baldwinsville Library. I'm going to take a couple to the Liverpool Library.
That's great, Dana. You're doing all the right stuff.
Well, one thing that I look at is our family came over quite a long time ago, about in the 1600s. Both sides came over. And the Round side were the second people to move into Lafayette. Lafayette just turned 200. This is where I grew up. So everything, well, even the pictures in the book, people that who knew my parents chuckle because the living room is yellow with the brown plaid couch, and the bedroom is purple, which is just the color of my parents' house.
Do you think you're going to do what your but your wife suggested and make a story out of some of your lyrics?
I think so.
Okay,
Because I like working with this, and it gets interesting.
good.
It's a lot of work, I say that much.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize writing isn't easy, and you can't just throw the words on the page. You gotta
No,
rewrite
I
and
have to say, I write emotionally. I write from the heart.
yeah. Well, that's great, Dana. Keep it up. You are Dana E. Rounds, author of
Yep,
So Loved. Thanks for talking to me today.
thanks.
Brian D. Walker wrote software for a living, and when he retired, he promised he would never do anything computer-related again. Becoming a published author was on his bucket list, and now he's here to talk about the Book of Logan, A Different Life. I know you published another book with another publisher, and it didn't work out. So you were a little gun-shy, weren't you?
Well, I was searching around. I found Fulton, and I talked to somebody from Fulton for, had to be then an hour one day about philosophies and the way that they do business and so on and so on, even though she knew that I wasn't ready to publish. So when I got ready to publish, I went back to Fulton.
That's great, Brian. Where did you get the idea for the Book of Logan?
Believe it or not, it came from a song, Lauren and and I thought that I misunderstood the lyrics to be about someone who is left behind after his partner dies and the man is blind. And that's actually not what the song is about. But by the time that I had that in my head, I already had the underpinnings of Logan kind of in my head. I am a stream of consciousness writer. So even though I have the major events of the story in my head, I don't actually have an outline on paper and I just sit down and start writing.
So what did you come up with? What's it about?
The Book of Logan is about a man who is incredibly good at what he does. He's a sound and lighting engineer, and he lives in New York City. The problem is that he is so good that he does nothing but work. And he eventually gets to the point where he can't stand it anymore and decides that he has to get out of New York. And he's burnt out from living in Manhattan. He moves to Florida. The thing is that he buys property, and the house that he buys is well over 100 years old, and it comes with a granny cottage. And he has the granny cottage updated and eventually decides to rent it out to someone who is going to work for him. And everyone is gone except for the grandmother, and the 4 children are in the house in the granny cottage when it starts on fire.
Oh.
And so Logan goes over with his fire extinguisher and then uses the fire extinguisher like a battering ram to get the door beat down so he can rescue the children. The thing is that on his way out, a ceiling beam collapses and hits him in the head and knocks him out cold. When he comes to, he's blind. He has detached retinas. And so now he's got to, he wanted to rebuild his life. Well, here's your opportunity.
So life is completely different for him now.
A different life.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the subtitle of your book.
Right. The thing is that he begins to have changes in his life, like learning to trust people, learning to do things on his own, learning to what he can and can't do The fellow that rents the granny cottage, they clean up the granny cottage, they repair the damage, and this fellow that he has working for him ends up taking care of Logan, sort of, and finds out that Logan has perfect pitch and can sing. And that's a different life as well, because now he becomes a recording star. He has become friendly with a British recording star, and they do an album together. The British recording star tries to convince Logan to go on tour, and Logan says no. The thing is that Logan's better half ends up being murdered by the psychotic dentist from next door. Logan is having a hard time moving on from that, and realizes that maybe the best thing for him would be to go on tour with Simon. And so he does. A Different Life is the first of a trilogy, and they're all written.
Sounds like a real book of inspiration.
It is. And one of the things that I wanted the book, I didn't want the book to be all doom and gloom, even though there's some pretty awful stuff in there. I wanted it to be inspirational. That's a good word. That's a good word.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've got this trilogy, and then you've got several more books. Wow, Brian, you've been busy.
My first book was the Book of Daniel, was somewhat the same way because of the way that it's left.
Okay.
It's left so that it can be moved on from there. In other words, there's no finality to it.
Right.
Just like with the Book of Logan, there's no finality to that. He goes off on this tour of Europe with Simon, and it's a good thing for Logan. And even though you feel like you've gotten to the end of the story, sort of, it's kind of left hanging. There's no, he moves there and becomes famous and can never go back to having a normal life again.
There's challenges there too, isn't there?
Yeah, so it's the same idea.
So Brian, when you've got all of these books, it sounds like you have a whole new life, as an author. How are you promoting them from where you are?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been doing an awful lot of promoting. This, like I said, this was really a bucket list thing. And I didn't, before I started writing, I decided that if they didn't sell, that'd be no big deal to me. The act of writing the books was what was important. And I will leave the copyright to my niece when I pass. Not that they'll ever be useful to anyone, but I'll leave that to her.
Okay. And
Okay.
you're going to be a guest on the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable podcast. And you'll be notified when you're going to be on the podcast. And then you can get an edited version of this interview. And you can use that in your social media. You can use it in an email blast. It's just an MP3 file. So that's, one tool that you'll have to use if you want to use it.
Okay.
Brian D. Walker, The Book of Logan, A Different Life. Thanks so much for talking to me, Brian.
Well, thanks for your time.
A retired police lieutenant in Las Vegas, Kasey Matthews Johnson, set out to write her memoir and wound up being kidnapped by a spirit. Yes, you heard right. She wound up being kidnapped by a spirit. Now, she recently joined me on the Reader House podcast to talk about her book, Boof. And that book was the result of your original book, correct? Which is called I Am Sarah Femme. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Nice to talk to you again, Kasey.
Well, here's how it happened. I wrote I Am Seraphim, and then all of a sudden, I started just having this amazing inspiration. And so I wrote Boof. I wrote another one called Little Miss Bushy Pants. I wrote You Are the Wi-Fi. And then I started within days on I Am Seraphim, the sequel. I didn't know there was going to be a second adult book, though, at the time that I wrote the first book, I Am Seraphim.
Now you never really wrote before. You truly believe that someone or something spoke through you, and it was your job to write I Am Seraphim.
Yes, I was told that this was my guardian angel. I was told I am you and you are me. I was told, and this is hundreds of times, repetitively, I was told you need to start writing things down for the book. You have to write a book for humanity, over and over. I had never written one thing. I turned 50 maybe a week before this started happening, and had never written a thing in my life. And then all of a sudden, just boom. I mean, I'm being told you need to write. And I didn't want to write it because I'm like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm insane. I don't want to write this book.
Did you think you were going insane?
Well, there's another aspect to this. When I first started hearing that, no, I just knew I was being bothered in my sleep and I couldn't sleep. But this is where Boof comes in. On the heels of this, and if you read in the Bible, it says that demons can come in as angels of light. What started happening is I started to be attacked just after Sarah, who I had to name, came in and spoke to me. I started to be attacked by a demon at the same time who was trying to get me not to write the books that Sarah told me I was going to write. At that time, I started to feel like, what in the heck is going on? I didn't know this could even happen to a person. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before. I didn't know that this could happen. So yeah, there was a moment in time where I'm like, I know I'm not losing it, but what is happening? I'm hearing something. I am hearing clearly a voice that says I need to write a book for humanity. And on the heels of that, what Satan, Boof, started coming in and telling me is, hurry, write. And he was trying to exhaust me, which I thought was going to be just my personal memoir, because when I first set out on this journey, it was only going to be a memoir. That's what I thought I was going to write. Very soon that changed when I started hearing this angel saying, no, now's the time. We're going to write a book. This has always been meant to happen to you. Didn't matter where your path took you. This was meant to happen in your life. You were always meant to write this book.
What is the story?
This first book is basically how this angel came into my life and derailed my memoir and made it about her and the fact that I needed to write a book for humanity. What I didn't understand at the time, because I guess this kind of thing isn't unleashed on a person all at once. You can't just have something dumped on you like this. Over a period of time, and not very long, mind you, not very long, I started understanding because she kept telling me, okay, we need to continue to write. And the second book was about artificial intelligence. If we don't stop the advanced artificial intelligence, it's going to end humanity, and very soon, like Noah's Ark, it's raining. But this book is an introduction into that one. This is how this angel came about in my life and how she derailed my personal memoir, which I thought was going to be just that. And it turned into something completely different that I never planned on and never knew could happen. This is the gist of this first book, which is written in a more lighthearted way, honestly, than the sequel. Because the sequel has a message that makes people very uncomfortable, and I totally get that.
This angel came to you. This angel said, you have to write this book. You have to give hope to humanity. You have to get this message out there. Is it helping you get the message out there?
I think somewhat, and I can tell that only vaguely, not from book sales, because I don't think that social media equates to book sales. But what I can tell you is every night I have about 300 more views than I used to have. I used to have about 3,000 views. Now I'm up to 9,000. At one point I got up to 11. I know people are looking, that doesn't necessarily equate to a purchase of the book. And I'm posting about the book. I'm posting some of the story about what happened to me. I'm posting about what the book is actually about, especially the sequel, because that's the more important of these two books. One day I'll combine them.
AI is scaring a lot of people.
Rightfully so. And we are not listening to the experts on it. I mean, have you heard of this P-Doom number? This is a number that experts place on AI killing off humanity, the extinction of humanity. So they're already talking about it. The problem is nobody's taking it seriously. And this is why, because I am not an expert on anything. This is why now the other side, God and his angels, are stepping in, because someone needs to start paying attention. And I know this book's going to be controversial because there's some religious things in here that people are already giving me trouble about. They're very passionate about their views, but I'm not in charge here.
Okay. I will say people are really taking notice after, what was it, 2 teenagers died after, Chat GPT became their best friend.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's a good sign for your book that you are getting increased hits on social media, but you're also taking a lot of hits, aren't you? People are calling you crazy.
But I knew, and I was told this would happen, and I knew it too. And this is why I was so apprehensive that I'm like, I can't write these books. I do not want to write these books. And then something else which is interesting is happening. People are saying, oh, your guardian angel must be the devil because he can come in. The demons can come in as a angel of light. But I'll tell you what, demons, Satan and his legions, they do not give a funny name like Boof to Satan. And this is what this angel told me: because it will weaken him on earth, we have to call him a funny name and get other people to refer to him as this name. So it's all a combined story with these it's an amazing story, but it's so difficult to tell in just a few minutes, because there's so many different pieces and parts to it. But it's quick. They're quick reads, both of these, especially the first one.
And you were physically attacked, right? Do you write about that?
Yes. And there's a dentist in the town right next to me that can attest that he had to fix my teeth because I could feel Boof's rage in my sleep. He strangled me in my sleep, lifted me up from the bed, and he also broke my teeth. And he showed me my teeth breaking. I could feel his rage because I was finally writing the material that Sarah, the angel, told me I needed to write. And I had figured out how to discern who it was that I was hearing. And I was finally listening to her, and he was powerless. And he was angry. And so the only thing he could do was attack me in my sleep, which cost me some money because I had to have a tooth replaced. Anyway.
Did you take a picture of the tooth?
No, but my dentist can attest that I showed up days after this with broken tooth.
I mean, people are just probably going, what?
And you know what? What's amazing about this story is the more people that find out, the more people tell me that they've had the exact same thing happen. It's just that there's this stigma and people don't want to talk about these things, but it's happening. And I think it's happening even more right now because there's so much evil that's pervasive in our society. And in other cultures, this is a norm. They understand that these things happen and they talk about it freely. But in America, there's a stigma and people don't want to be known as crazy. I am certainly one of those people, but I know this happened to me.
Where do you leave us at the end of the first book?
That this is our 15 minutes. This was the last line of the book. I asked her, I'm like, what is the point? What is the point of this? Why make me write a book that will open me up to so much criticism? And she says, this is the point. You know how an avocado is perfectly ripe to eat for about 15 minutes? And I said, yes. She says, this is our 15 minutes. Ends it like that. That's how I ended that book.
I'll tell you, I'd want to go to like a medium. I don't know what I would do. I think I'd lose my mind.
Alice, here's a part of the story though. So, and this is where the religious people are really up in arms. The ones that I know about, I'm sure there's more. I have a friend who's a psychic. She's actually the one who helped me get away from Boof. Like when Boof was talking to me and I couldn't discern who it was I was hearing, I called her out of desperation because I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I called her. I'm like, this is what's happening. This, and this just happened. And she's like, okay. She goes, you're hearing just like I can hear. She says, but what is happening is this demon is coming in. What you have to do is ask who it is that's speaking, because a spirit cannot lie. And I'm like, what? Who knew this? I didn't know that. But I'll tell you what, that woman saved my life because I didn't have a pastor. I didn't have a priest. I didn't grow up with religion. I didn't have anybody that I could like tap on and say, hey, this is happening to me and I don't know what to do about it. But because the Bible says you will not seek witchcraft out, you will not seek, people are attacking me for that too. But this woman saved my life because I probably would have ended up going crazy.
Well, what would a shrink say to you?
He would put me on meds if I told him I was hearing a voice. And there's no meds on board. There were no meds at all. And I think that happens probably in American culture way too much, when maybe what we have is a spiritual problem. And I'm not saying that mental disorders don't exist. I think actually more and more nowadays we're seeing it with the screen addictions and the dopamine addictions. But the first step in American culture is to put you on medications, not try to decipher, hey, is this really happening? And is there a demon trying to attack this person? Or could this be an angel? We just are so quick to negate what we don't understand. Here's the thing, and this is what Sarah, her name is Sarah Femme for short, because we had this dialogue, and I'm like, I'm going to call you Sarah Femme for short. So that's her whole name. But she told me that Satan is using artificial intelligence and technology to hurt humanity. And I totally believe that based on what I'm seeing now. And who's to say that's not accurate? Another fun fact here. This book, I Am Sarah Femme, the sequel, has the message about artificial intelligence. And I've been on the phone with Amazon because for 4 weeks, this book has suddenly gone missing from their site. So nobody can find it on Amazon. I find it very interesting that they use chatbots and they use these AI helpers, these assistants, all throughout Amazon, and the book about artificial intelligence ending humanity is missing. I'm not saying that's the reason. It's because artificial intelligence is monitoring what's going on Amazon sites, but I just think it's very, very interesting that is the book that's been missing, and I have been fighting to get it back on the platform. It's only available on Barnes & Noble right now. So frustrating when I'm getting all these looks, but yet nobody can find the book on Amazon. That particular book. Every other book is there.
Wow. Crazy. I am looking forward to I Am Sarah Femme, the sequel. And if nothing else, get a screenplay written.
And I ultimately think that's where it's going. Right now, though, I feel like it's more important to get the message out because we've got to ratchet this down, put some brakes on quickly.
All right. Kasey Matthews Johnson, author of I Am Sarah Femme. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.